Okay, we're back with another Webmaster video question. This one comes from Danny Sullivan. He asks, what are some of the things on your radar or some of the trends in search you'd like to talk about? That's a great question, Danny. I'm glad that you asked it. There's a lot of really interesting things going on in search right now. Even if you check TechMeme today, there's... Oh,
I just thought I'd come by.
hey,
That's
how
all right.
are you? Yeah, absolutely. Pull up
Good
a
to see you,
chair.
thanks.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, I was just picking out some shirts
Oh,
back there, and
That looks a little familiar for some reason.
mine's blue.
Huh. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
blue. It's totally different.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. You were talking about trends.
Trends in search, like what's on your radar? What are you thinking about?
No, I wanted to hear you first.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm browsing through TechMeme, and
Yeah.
McDonald's hacked, customer data stolen,
No.
Gawker hacked, and
Did
people
McDonald's
stole
dump
data.
WikiLeaks also?
I have no idea how all these hacks work, but so one thing we've been working on that's on our radar is working on trying to help hacked sites. We've been spending a fair amount of time on that. We're increasing messaging. The other big thing on our radar is probably communication. So how do you let people know that they've got an issue? How do you communicate so that if they want to do a reconsideration request, can we give them some more information? Are they doing better? Are they doing worse? All that sort of stuff.
You've been doing things like sending out emails to people, of course, when you detect problems with their sites, if you can figure out what their email is.
Yes, and sometimes we've tried from the site, and more recently we're trying to get people to opt in the Webmaster Console so that they will get email alerts. And we're really trying to get a lot of people to opt into that because, if we've told you that your site is hacked and you don't get the email we send you, that doesn't do anybody any good. So we'll keep doing that. We'll keep pressing on the reconsideration request process, trying to make that more transparent. But I'm kind of curious,
Great.
like what's on your radar? What do you think the big trends are, or what are you thinking about?
I've been especially watching the social stuff.
Yeah.
We've had all this social data being used, or we've had all the social data being generated, and I've been curious recently, would the search engines actually be using it? And, it was interesting that Google was saying, yes, we're actually looking at things like who you are on Twitter and who follows you and what your kind of Twitter reputation is and your tweet rank, if you will, and that can have an influence on whether or not the things that you're talking about or linking to are doing well. So it's been interesting to see how we're evolving from it's just that your website might have a reputation to you yourself might have a reputation on social networks.
Yeah. And it's only a matter of time before we see people coming up with triangular follow on Twitter.
That would never happen.
Reciprocal follow, all that kind of stuff.
This is all mythical stuff. That would never happen.
Well, actually, and we did have a question earlier today. Is there anything you'd like to correct yourself on? Because we filmed some videos back in May, and we said, oh no, Twitter is just like any other web page. Facebook is just like any other web page. And so we made a video earlier today that said, hey, that's no longer the case. And I think we'll leave a link to the Search Engine Land article because that's the most comcomprehensive.
That would be great.
One.
And no need to
in the description
follow
of the
that
video
or anything, just because it's editorially sufficient and it should go.
But it absolutely is the case that, even earlier today, someone was asking about if you were a big company and thinking about advanced SEO, what would you do? And we were thinking, well, optimize for your speed, make sure your CMS is there, make sure you have buy-in. And then we were like, well, also social media marketing because that drives traffic, not only links.
The other interesting thing was, this change with the online merchants.
Yeah.
And your reputation as an online merchant, independent of your web page and your page rank or whatever, is now something that Google's taking into account, and that seemed to be a good move in many ways.
Well, and it took a little while that we had to see what was going on, and then we have to educate people. It wasn't just complaints on consumer sites, consumer complaint sites, but it's definitely the case that if you make a bad reputation for yourself, that can follow you around on the web, and so I think more people are going to be thinking about what is my reputation? How do I show myself in the best possible light? And that's one area where SEO can be really handy to highlight the good things that you do. So I think that'll be a trend.
When that happened, I saw a lot of people say things like, well, now everybody's just going to create a bunch of fake reviews or good reviews and try to push that up. And, my assumption had been that may be one of the signals you might be using, but you would be taking into account a whole variety of other things as well. So it's not just, well, this person has a bunch of bad reviews, therefore they must be bad, but you try to...
Absolutely. And so what we ended up doing was taking multiple data sources and intersecting them so that if one had a false negative, the other data source wouldn't have that false negative. And I think that works relatively well, so that if somebody thinks, oh, I'm just going to hurt a competitor, I'm just going to go do a whole bunch of things right here, well, they're not going to think about all the different ways that we're looking at the signals. So the hopefully good thing is the merchants who do not provide a good user experience, our algorithm, it hits over 500 different sites, as far as triggering, that's going to hopefully capture the right sort of sites that people don't really want to be visiting on the internet, at least according to our algorithms.
Great. Well, that's a lot of trends.
Yeah, thanks
All
for
right.
stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Good questions.